of micro enterprises to SMEs and then larger companies. And then we finish off by saying that the human person is not a burden. That the whole population control idea that somehow if you limit population you'll create prosperity. Well, no, people create prosperity. Sure. And then we give some examples of that. That's session 2, and then session 3 is on. Then we start to go deeper. So private property and rule of law.
Yes.
How private property is very important. How rule of law is very important. What they are.
Hernando de Soto wrote a really good book.
Yeah, he's in it.
I use him in my class.
Good. Okay, he's in the curriculum.
I love his ideas and theories, and every now and then I buy some of the books for my students.
Yeah, so he's in there. We have a good section of Hernando de Soto. And then we also look at a study of how private property changes worldview. So Anielka and I interviewed a guy called Ernesto Chavrozzi, who partners with a guy at Harvard HBS called Rafael Di Tella, and so we had a long phone call with him, and then we went down and visited Ernesto in Buenos Aires. And they basically, the simple thing is, it's more complex than this, but they had this whole area that with squatters essentially, and they decided they were going to give private property to everybody. And so they started it, and then this whole section was delayed. For various reasons. So this group had private property, this group didn't. They were in the same exact area, they had the same preferences, the same backgrounds, etc. Same demographics, same preferences remained the same, but their worldview changed. Okay. This group had higher levels of trust, higher levels of participation, better view of the future, etc., etc. So we talked about that, and then
30 years after. So it was a study that they did after 30 years.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And then we interviewed this Kenyan guy who lives in Kibera, which is I think the second largest slum in Africa. It's in Nairobi, and he's an interesting guy. He's a Christian guy, a businessman. He borrowed $8 from his family and started a little shop, but he lives in this unbelievable slum. Okay. And he can't register his business, and he has no private property and no title, and so he wants to get out so he can do education. So that's the third session, and then the fourth session is free exchange and free. The second session is private property, rule of law, and free association, like how to start a business. So De Soto's discussion of how it takes like 289 days to start a business, and then we interviewed Marcela Escobari, who's at Harvard. She's the director of international development there. She's a great lady. So she talked about that as well, and then the fourth session goes into networks of productivity and exchange. So Doug Seebeck's in that, like the whole idea. One of the theme is that it's not that you teach a man to fish. He knows that they know how to fish. They need access to the pond. That's the kind of thematic of number 4. So we look at some kind of interesting places. We have some shots from the DR. We talk about different countries, but we actually study Ireland in that section because Ireland had per capita GDP similar to Central American countries like Nicaragua and Salvador in the 70s and 60s. 100 years ago, and we interviewed Juan Jose Dabug, who's the number 2. He was the number 2 guy at the World Bank. 100 years ago, Nicaragua had the same number of cows, the same number of people, the same land, everything, and Ireland. They were both poor, and Ireland kind of hangs out, and then all of a sudden, and it had a crash after the financial crisis. But now its per capita GDP is like 40,000 instead of 60. It's like ludicrous. Okay, the crash that's made Ireland poor is now only the 15th or 20th richest country instead of the second. And so we ask, well, what happened? And there's this TED conference where Andrew Blenda was talking, and he was like, well, nobody gets wealthy on aid. And Bono says, oh no, Ireland did. Of course, that's not true at all. So we kind of show that, and then we talk about this connection to networks of productivity. And part of then the fifth section is on the transformative effect of the gospel on people's lives. And so we spend a lot of time with Rwanda and the genocide there. Okay. And then the sixth session is what's the role of the church? What's the role of communities? How do you create trust? What about taking care of orphans? How do you take care of orphans in a way that doesn't just kind of create a cycle of dependency? Sure. So we have some, I interviewed with a guy, he's an American guy, but he was working in Cambodia, he works all over Africa. He's a great guy. And then there's another section in the middle which will be poverty in like the United States and the UK, which is a different question. But the kind of thematic is, one, the human person is creative, created in the image of God, right? That people create prosperity for themselves and their families when they have the opportunity, the institutions that allow them to do it. And then kind of one of the driving themes is that, like, that people in the developing world are not somehow kind of different from people in Europe and the United States, or it's other, that they don't have the certain opportunities. And so what we're trying to do is really, like, if you see it, it's very, like, people in the developing world are portrayed as energetic, intelligent, capable, beautifully dressed. Even if they're very poor or middle class, they look nice. There's energy, and they don't have like, there's none of that fly stuff. Because we're trying to really kind of change the way that people think about people in the developing world.
And
right.
Absolutely. I mean,
and so that's one of the powerful elements. People are like, they see this Kenyan lady, they're like, well, that's not what I imagined a Kenyan lady to be like. Exactly. Because people are created in the image of God. They're not some kind of other that we need to have pity for. So
I hate that when I tell people I'm going to live in Haiti, they're like, oh my gosh, you're like Mother Teresa. I'm like, I'm not doing it, I mean, it's Haiti, but it's not like I'm going to live on another planet.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a role for, like, what Mother Teresa does. She cares for the poorest of the poor who are dying. Okay? But that's not economic development. Yeah. Okay, and that's not even, that's a different, I mean, there's a role for taking care of orphans. I mean, the scriptures are very clear that true religion is, pure religion is to take care of orphans and widows in their distress. Okay? So, but the question is, the goal is, I mean, this is what you're saying, is the goal is not for us to feel better. We're not the hero. The goal is to take care of other people who are created in the image of a loving God, and then help those people to take care of themselves. So, like, Judeo-Christian tradition is extremely clear. From Moses Maimonides, his work in the medieval, he's a medieval Jewish philosopher. The highest form of charity is to help loan money so someone can start a business. I mean, these are the but you're absolutely right. I mean, there, as Anielka says. I mean, you say this really well. She's like, there is a story of extreme poverty and serious difficulty.
Sure.
But that's one of many stories.
Sure.
And the problem is that so many people have reduced that to the single story. So the way we experience the developing world is through, like, the person with the flies, instead of instead of all this creative energy that's really untapped. So De Soto has that line where he says the developing world is teeming with entrepreneurs. Right? And so what happens is they need to be unleashed so they can take care of their families. And so like at Poverty Cure, our theme is from aid to enterprise. But I always have a joke that I want my own theme. So our PR firm made me a little thing, and it says Poverty Cure. They're poor. They're not stupid. Right. So of course we wouldn't use that. That's a little bit. But I mean that's it. So I have it in my office. It says Poverty Cure. They're poor. They're not stupid. Because that's part of the problem.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem. It's like, oh, those poor people. Well, yeah, they're poor.
But they have the same capacity.
And so would you be if you lived in that situation.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. That's
I have my students watch the Poverty Cure video.
Yeah.
And then I have them reflect on some of those aspects of, it's in English, so that it's not mandatory, so they think of what is the common theme here. And then some of this, it's amazing what you're saying here in terms of this is exactly what's happening in this developmental agencies and the situation on the field. Absolutely true. So I wonder what kind of who's gonna be in this class? Who's gonna be taught? It sounds like a PhD level class, or somebody would have to have attended prior prerequisites.
No, it's pretty. I mean, that's one of the advantages of video curriculum.
Oh, it's video.
It's a video. It's a 6-part video curriculum, about 20 to 25 minutes each.
Okay.
So, like, I'm the host, okay, which was not my idea. but I'm the host.
He's a good host.
So what happens is I'll say like, okay, and then we'll have like Paul Collier, Hernando de Soto,
Okay.
Marcela Escobari, the guy who lives in this Kibera in the Canyon. Yeah, and then the film will be you know, a more unified thread. I mean, the curriculum is these 7 sessions, right? But has stories, and the film will be less as ambitious in its pedagogical, in its teaching elements, and just kind of like tell a story. And the goal, partially, of the film is that cognitive dissonance to think, wait a minute, like you just said, like, you know, like you said, wait a minute, I'm not, you know, I've been thinking about this differently. I need to change the way I think, and so that's the whole kind of project. Is we have a Poverty Cure website, well, the film, a curriculum, all the issues pages, and then all of the partners. So that people say, okay, well now what do? I want to get involved in business development. Go to Partners Worldwide. So just yesterday, or no, not yet, about 4 days ago, I was talking to a guy who works. He's a businessman, and now he's helping with a Catholic diocese. And he said he's a very successful businessman, and now he said.
So we built this project of combining the NGOs, the business development with the coaching, mentoring, access to capital, and this is how it's rooted.
Yeah, it's the NGO is actually an issue that needs to be, I think, thought about more seriously. One of the problems that most people don't know is they think because it's an NGO that therefore it has no relationship. It's private.
Yeah.
But an NGO means, like in the British context, it's a non-governmental
Yes, sure.
organization.
Sure.
It's not a non-state organization. So it's not part of the government. It's not part of, like, you know, the Labour Party or the Tories.
Sure.
But it is funded by the state and funded by international organizations. So it's public. It's not private.
Sure.
It's maybe a
Not for profit.
they're highly connected to the World Bank. I mean, like, one of the guys we interviewed in Ghana, he's like, look, he's like, 2 things. He said, one, we'll have a great business idea. We're getting ready to start a business. An NGO gets whiff of it, they get donor money, they deliver it for free, and we have to lay off staff. The other thing is, the World Bank is putting the pressure here, and the IMF, and the USAID, the Swedish Aid, and JICA, and British ODA, all these guys. And they're putting the pressure here, and they're funding NGOs that are putting the pressure here.
Yes.
So that,
that's right.
you know, so you've got this kind of separation from the government to the people is severed because it's focused on the donor relationship. And then you have NGOs kind of fomenting the policy that supports this.
Yes.
So it's a problem. It's a problem.
Sure. Thank you again for this beautiful time we're having with our friends whom we're sharing so much of the common vision who have entrusted it to us. Thank you for the work that you're doing around the world, and we are here. Please guide us and our upcoming events and the conference and the graduation. May all of this be used for your name. Thank you for this food. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thanks.
Please go ahead and start eating. I know you guys have not good.
Do you not have any?
What did you order? Pasta. It's okay. Please eat.
How is it?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually have 2 guys.
It's anti-free market, actually. And you know, the rice industry is right there. Haiti is one example of government intervention, government economic policy that destroy the substance of a profitable industry that's been going on for years.
Oh, you're right. I mean, and this is part of the problem. The thing that I've been thinking about lately is this idea point, which, you know, can seem ideological, fine, but that the problem is every time we blame the free market for things that are not caused by the free market, then we further create obstacles for the poorest of the poor to get access to those networks of productivity.
Sure.
And so that's why I mean, we have to make these distinctions. And it's not, and because every time we say, oh, it's free market capitalism, oh, it's so evil and they can't compete. That's not free market capitalism. It's big business and big government in collusion to subsidize, to distort other markets, it's not. There's no competition, and the poor need competition.
You need competition. You need competition. I mean, without competition, you have a system that. I mean, basically, the whole market economy is designed to accommodate competitions.
Right.
You know, it's like a human body that has veins and blood. You know, the free market economy has to have competition. Must have.
Right.
And that's what's been happening with the rice industry. So I think, you know, you guys emphasizing on the rice industry would be really, really great. It would be really, really great.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. I just want to say quickly that we do want to look at the rice industry because I think the rice industry is like a way to look at. I mean, the fact that Haiti was. Let me say, the rice industry is very interesting because we oftentimes think of foreign aid as projects or like big money coming in, and we don't think of foreign aid as food. And right now in America, there's a big debate, and Europe, but in America about food. And so one of the ideas we had actually as we were developing this, we're not going in this direction. I talked to Doug a lot about it. Is like I've interviewed this very well-known free marketer, organic farmer in Virginia. He's very well known. He's very much loved by the organic people. He's loved by the left, who's very supportive of foreign aid. And I interviewed him, and he's a small farmer. He said, look, these subsidies, they don't protect the American farmer. They protect American agribusiness. And so there's this false demarcation. People say, okay, first of all, the capital, it's free market capitalism and it excludes the poor. Not true. It's not free market capitalism. Two, well, we need to protect the American farmer. It doesn't protect the American farmer. It actually creates rules and regulations that make it hard for the American farmer to compete. So actually you have smaller American farmers and smaller farmers in the developing world who are both struggling against so-called free market capitalism, which is actually managerial capitalism. It's big business and big government in cahoots, and the poor are excluded.
Sure.
And the small farmers are excluded, and the small business are excluded. Because small businessmen don't send lobbyists to Washington.
Sure.
They don't have any money to do that.
Sure. Absolutely. And that has consequences.
Of course.
You know, the United and biggest aspect of it is as government subsidize price of commodities or cash crops and everything in developed countries, farmers in those countries stop innovating.
Of course.
They stop finding new processes, new raw materials.
Because incentives matter.
Incentives, they don't look for it anymore. And this has died, and the drive prices up in the market. And government needs to keep subsidizing them at a higher rate, which they need to get more taxes from the people who are working. So it's crazy. And what happens too is in countries like Haiti, what's going on in the fact that we have to compete with subsidized products and with pressure from those foreign governments to reduce quotas. You know, went from 38% to 3%, and then at the same time you have NGOs dumping donated. This is awful.
Right. I mean, I think you could say. I mean, I'd like to hear. I think it seems like the certain quota and the tariff element, like, will ultimately hurt Haitian small farmers. Right. So even if America's doing it, like, to kind of retaliate by creating tariffs that make it hard for that make it hard for other people to compete, that kind of tend to create a certain type of oligarchic managerial capitalism here is not the answer. But I think you're absolutely right. I mean, but this is why I go back to this point. I mean, it's been thinking about more and more. If you look at the financial crisis of 2008, it's the failure of free market capitalism. Well, it was actually it's the failure of managerial capitalism. And so, but the problem is you have a lot of well-meaning people who are like, oh yeah, markets failed. Yeah, we got to protect the poor from competition.
market fails all the time, you know.
Right, of course.
It's like a market can die. That's part of, you know, once a customer taste and preferences change, and they stop consuming this, and there's no demand for it, and people stop buying it. There's
Like
no
the-
transaction in it.
The typewriter
Nice.
market.
Sure,
market.
typewriter market through innovation that kind of rejuvenated to something else. It dies. And you know, only people who are anti-capitalism can say that.
Okay, but what do you think is? I mean, look, one of the things that's very interesting is this question. There's an enduring appeal to this hostility to the market in defense of the poor, right? There's an enduring appeal. So people are surprised when I say, well, I think free markets are very important, precisely because they help the poor. They're like, but why do you think there's such a kind of bias against competitive markets in defense of the poor?
I think people have, like, I go back to Hernando de Soto again. People in the developing world, they have forgotten what has gotten them there. You know, there's so much free riders, and I'm from a big country. I can find a job whenever, or I can get a good education, and then they forget that, you know, 80% of jobs created in the U.S., for example, is from private businesses.
Small, medium business.
Small, medium businesses. And the goods and services produced by those businesses, government get taxes from those businesses, and this tax pay for roads, provide for financial aid, we paying back, and now it's paying for stimulus package.
Yeah.
It's paying for stimulus package. And I think people have forgotten, you know, what made those countries great. It's the application from the 18th century industrial revolution that transformed the way that markets and institutions can operate with efficiency and effectiveness to produce goods and services at the cheapest level and can distribute them too.
Right, you know, a lot of people will say markets can create, but they can't distribute. And that's false.
That's absolutely false. You know, only a person who doesn't understand the interaction and the dynamic of, and you know, Michael, it's particularly important to in a market economy. I mean, people in the U.S., they sometimes, when they speak, you have a tendency that they don't like this anymore, but it is essentially a market economy. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's.
We always joke that people
I get upset,
People
man.
complain about the market economy as they're tweeting from their iPhones, which were provided by the market economy.
it's
Like
competition.
innovation.
Right.
And,
I mean, it's
you know how many
the
people
problem
like
is
competition.
Apple put out of business in order to create an
And-
incredible product.
Sure.
You know, it's
No,
not
you're-
like it's all rainbows and butterflies.
You know, you get all those failed businessmen. All those failed businessmen turn into politicians, turn into lobbyists.
You know what else too? Is businessmen are not.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
Businessmen are not always friends of the market. They want protection. See, like small businessmen like the market, medium businessmen like the market, but big businessmen,
They want
They
a
want
monopoly.
protection.
They want a monopoly.
absolutely. You know what Adam Smith said?
Get it.
Do you know what Adam Smith said? Adam Smith. Rarely do
favorite.
businessmen get together that they don't collude to harm the public.
Yes.
I mean, it's not, they raise prices to harm the public. It's constant. But I mean, somehow there has to be a defense of competitive markets on behalf of the poor.
And that's what government should be doing. To protect, not give the U.S. government, I'm sorry now, is because the importance of strategic importance of the U.S. government to free market, to democracy, when you see that, maybe I shouldn't be saying that on camera, but when you see what some of the actions of this government is doing, actually the U.S. government is the biggest owner of General Motors. Those guys are not paying taxes for 50 years and they're showing profit. That's not profit. It's craziness. And then the U.S. government is sending this message to these other countries. This is what capitalism is. It's terrible. That's terrible.
Lower the bars.
Sure. And I think ultimately, like Marco was saying, the role of government is to provide an atmosphere where everybody can compete on an equal level.
But why do you think, and maybe Anyoka has insight, why do you think there's this like, in Latin America, in Africa maybe a little bit, but in Latin America there's a sense like, okay, the free market is bad. It's exploitation of the poor by the wealthy. And so there's this kind of visceral reaction to the free market. And then when you kind of point out what it means, they're like, oh, wait a minute. Why do you think that exists? Like in Latin America, for example, a lot of people are immediately suspicious of the free market.
Sure.
Well, I guess like it's because historically what Latin Americans experience is not free markets, but oligarchic capitalism. So what people, the image that comes to mind when you think about free markets is just people getting richer at the expense of others that are being exploited by them. And that are just these companies are just tied with the government and they get deals with them. They get protectionist measures and all that. So immediately, Rafael Ditela, the professor from he was in Harvard, and he's from Argentina. He told us that when you think of the U.S. and you ask people to name the 5 companies, the most powerful companies in the U.S., people come and tell you Apple, General Motors. They tell you 5 big names. Sure. But when you ask for those 5 names in Latin America, people give you last names. Because it's usually the last names of families that basically own these conglomerates of business in the country and basically control the countries because they have close ties to the government, so it's like they are in control of everything. Yeah, right. So, it's really a challenge to change that. To change that image and to do it at that level, like you're saying. To do it at the level of the SME and to change the mentality too of entrepreneurship, which
and this has been a struggle for me personally. The reason why I commit my life to this work in Haiti is to see a middle class empowered, profitable. And those conferences that we've put together, the ones we put in March, we had somewhat of a small and medium-sized businesses in it, and they're straight from the middle class. But now we have the bigger businesses who have monopolies and who are heavily involved in trades, and they just quickly take the opportunity. They're the first to sign up, and almost we don't have much medium-sized businesses coming to the conference and market to the NGOs. And this is absolutely what we do. I'm not saying that it should be equal opportunity for everybody, but this is like a preferred bias or something, right? It's a tolerable bias, where just to help the middle class grow and be profitable. I don't know how we're gonna solve this problem.
It's a good silence. It's a good silence. It's like it's a profound silence.
Okay, I have a question again since we have you here. You look super good.
Change the card. It's blinking because it's almost out.
But I want to hear you talk about the rice again.
Oh, the rice. Okay.
But
I love the rice.
not right at the camera.
No, he's not right at the camera. No, yeah, not at the camera, but just like you were before. Tell Tony Elka or something, or Mark.
Yeah.
Tell me about the rice.
The failure of the
I don't
rice
know
industry
anything about it, so
maybe?
it's, I don't know anything about it.
What's the story of the Haitian rice? Like,
I heard something about that Haiti used to be rice sufficient, but now it's not. What's that all about?
Well, Haiti used to produce 80% of the rice that would be needed to be consumed in the country, and now we are needing to import 80% of the rice. This is just for local consumption.
How did that happen?
The couple main reasons. There have not been a solid study documented that I know of to justify or to give substance to those points that I'm saying, but all the evidences are pointed towards the fact that the first part is the wrong economic policy. Wrong economic policy from the Haitian people, from their government, who who failed to recognize the importance of a viable, vibrant, profitable industry and to protect it. And all countries in the world know how to do that. Brazil, all the BRIC countries, China, Indonesia, all those markets are being protected. Some are being protected. Well, I'm saying and being protected. So the first reason was the fact that we as a country failed to protect our own industry. Second of all is the fact that the long interaction with a foreign government. The U.S., for example, through International Monetary Fund program, we had to lower our taxes to get a grants or loans and things like that. Went from 38% to 3%, and as a result of that, within decades, Haiti have gone to be the third largest importer of rice from the U.S. And we're talking about a country of 10 million. The United States has 300 million people. So you can actually think of how much rice is consumed here. And the third part of it is we talked about the country leadership is wrong. Haiti's leadership is wrong, not realizing the importance of protecting it. Second, the wrong interaction between the foreign government and us, with a wrong tax policy, economics program policy. And third, subsidies. U.S. foreign government subsidizing the production at home. They have the better technology. First, they can produce it cheaper.
Can you explain explain how the whole subsidies thing works and then what it does to the Haitian market?
The subsidy is literally the government.
Which government? The U.S. government? Or the
Rich
European
government. Right now, what's going on, I can see, is a war of subsidies. The Solentra model in the U.S., for example, the Obama administration moved in and poured a lot of money into green energy. And then the Chinese realized that, and then before Obama did that, they put a lot of money into their clean energy, and then now the company the U.S. financed, subsidized, couldn't compete anymore with the companies the Chinese subsidized, and then the U.S. government, the U.S. company collapsed because their prices couldn't compete anymore with the Chinese. So it's a war, instead of a war of prices and products, it's a war of subsidies. Government subsidizing. So it's same thing in Brazil. You know, there's a big fight, and now the U.S. taxpayers are paying for Brazilian farmers not to farm. And
Yeah, explain that a little bit.
well,
The U.S. taxpayers?
the U.S. taxpayers.
Like how?
Well, the Brazilian went to the international court, whatever, against the tax system from the U.S. and then they won. And then the U.S. appealed it, and then when again the Brazilians, they won that. And then now they settle through the U.S. government paying the Brazilians not to farm, so which make it equal. And to get back to the point, what we were saying is with the rice aspect of it. So I mentioned 2 points, and the third was subsidies. It's a war of subsidies between those countries that have the economic power, but the wrong economic policies, and also that the subsidies also kill innovation, because the farmers, they receive money not to farm, so they lose all incentive to innovate, create better methods, look for cheaper labor, look for better technology. And all of those factors that I just mentioned are markets in themselves. And then as you stop innovating, you need to stop. You stop creating better products. And when you stop creating better products, equipments, you need to stop using the entire value chain in the technology industry. You need to stop looking for better human resources. Then when you do that, you don't actually look into the education program. How adapted is it to the workforce? You know, is that improving? So it's a chain of reaction that literally lead to poverty. I'm dead serious. This is what poverty. This is the consequence of poverty. And the world is predominantly capitalist today. Predominantly. And all of those BRIC countries, Brazil, India, they are here because the application of free market economy in the system through private investment, through look for better raw material, look for better communication system, better technology, better private investment. And it's not religion. I mean, India is not a Christian country. China is not a Christian country. And the economic well-being is not necessarily because of political regime. I mean, China is very different from the United States. It's a communist country versus a democratic country. But the underlying theme has been so far the application of market economy, represented by private firms that have integration of capital investment and facilitated by the infrastructure, the security, the good conditions in the country, and so on.
Let me ask you another question. In the car, we were talking about that project I told you about, Live 58. You know Live 58.
Oh, what was it?
You know Live 58 or Live 58.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
It's compassion movement. Anyway, it was just we were talking about it in the car, and like one of the things the guy says is like we've decreased extreme poverty, or extreme poverty has decreased from 56% to 52%, 26% over the last several decades. And he said, and so, you know, he said, think about what could happen if North American Christians. He's like, experts tell us that we need 70-some billion dollars, and we can end extreme poverty in our generation. What if North American Christians just gave money? You know, imagine what we could do to end extreme poverty. Okay, remember we talked about that? What do you think about that?
Well, you know, Michael, this is that new. This is like a Christian replica of the Millennium Goals of the United Nations. It is. There's a committee of foreign governments of the wealthy countries. It's called public aid. There's a committee. There's a name for it. And those countries, after the Millennium Goals, They-
Hold on, stop a minute. Did you get that what he said before?
I had to
I think
switch
that's
the
a really
recording.
good line.
Yeah.
Can you make actually that line one more time and just say, sorry, it was so important. He
It's a
said,
replica.
this
Say
is like
what-
a replica. This is, you know, this kind of like, well, if he wants to
Say the name. We don't
Yeah,
have to
this Live
use it. I
58
mean,
thing is like a Christian
and
replica.
things like this live. Say
Okay.
things like this live 58 to make sure that it's
yeah.
like the model and not
Well,
attacking them. So,
I
hold on
can
one
even
second.
explain it.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is like
Action.
this is like a country or an organization. Look at Michael. Or
No, start. Yeah, look at Michael, but,
But just-
I cut you off. So
Sorry,
I
just
was-
say something like you said. I mean, I asked you about it. He's like this Live 58 stuff is or whatever. It's like a replica of the. It's a Christian replica.
Sure,
Of the Sand.
sure.
That's perfect. He just didn't record it last time.
Okay.
Right. So, but explain what you're talking about, because I didn't
The-
preface it with we're talking about things like
Sorry.
Live 58. You're good.
So, yeah, sorry, you have to say. We just didn't record it, so it's so good. We want to get you to say it again.
Okay. This model, the Live 58 model, is not new. It's essentially a replica of the Millennium Goal of the United Nations. And what it is the wealthy countries get together, they create a committee. Their strategy to solve poverty is to commit 0.0% of their GDP to poor countries by subsidizing the budget of those countries. And the way they do that is to finance to World Bank and FMI loans and donations to go through infrastructure and infrastructure development, roads and other things like that. So this is not new, and this is gonna fail also, especially in Haiti. The country is a country of capitalists. People are into how they can trade, how can I produce something that make profit and also profit society. And this kind of model, as they come and try to subsidize the budgets of governments and also of institutions, and even now today we see NGOs trying to subsidize the budgets of businesses. That's even sick. So,
Like what? Give me some examples.
well, you see, some of the NGOs are giving money to businesses. Literally, they just write them a check because they need to say they have helped those businesses. And we've seen that in Haiti. Some people in our network, they receive grants and money because they're a business and because the NGOs receive money.
You know, sometimes I wonder if it's like the new hip thing to like invest in businesses, and so now we're going to take them on and
Yes.
invest in business, but
Yes.
that's not how businesses grow. It's
No. And what we're finding now in Partners Worldwide, particularly me, is really concerned because when we explain to people what we do, they don't spend time to understand it. They apply to what they know or understand of intervention to what they think we're doing. This is when you get people saying, oh, I'm starting an orphanage, then I'm going to create a couple jobs or 50 jobs. Well, I said, that's nice you're doing that. It's short-term relief for the kids and short-term spending on it. But it has nothing to do, actually, the development of orphanages is a strong indication of an increased poverty in the country. Because their parents don't have the liquidity purchasing power to provide for their kids. Therefore, this is something that's inversely proportional. The more orphanages, the higher the unemployment gets, the higher the orphanages are going to get. I don't have a data here to give this, but it's been through the Great Depression. That's what happened in the U.S. There was a bunch of orphanages too, and in Haiti, they're not actual orphanages in Haiti. Mostly, it's just daycare.
Okay, so like one of the things that you see, like I was on the plane today coming down, and a lot of the people are working with orphans. They're going to help orphans. They're going to do things. Now, clearly, as a Christian, you're supposed to help orphans
Sure.
and widows. So, like, what would you say to these people who are coming down? I mean, they're okay. First of all, they're good people. They're probably quite
Sure.
skeptical of aid.
Yes.
Okay, I talked to one guy. He said, "Look, I don't think you should just give somebody something. People need to work for things.
Sure.
Because if you give them something, then they sit there waiting for a handout. It's like the human incentives that you were talking about.
Sure.
But they spend a lot of time bringing food and medicine to take care of orphans. And what would you say to somebody like that? I mean, this is a well-intentioned, good Christian man
Yes.
who wants to help. What would you, as a Haitian, what would you say to someone like that?
Well, here's the thing. I thought about this today before I even saw you guys. It's to me it's three things. It's a biblical mandate for Christians. It's a good intention. It's the wrong action. All of these three elements combine to give this result. And because
What result?
increased poverty and the result is a short-sighted depletion of the level of transactions into the economy. Because if it's complicated to explain what an economy is, it's just very easy to explain how you can grow it. You can grow an economy by growing the level of transactions happening in it, in a market economy. So if we have people with good intention, with the biblical mandates come down and subsidize all of the transactions, this is killing the growth of the economy.
Okay,
That's the
explain it.
consequence.
Okay, so explain it. Okay, so explain it like you're talking to somebody, okay, who is
A church.
like you're talking to a church. Okay, so like I mean, think about it. These guys are well-intentioned. They're believers. They are not, they're not trying to support big foreign aid.
Sure.
They are kind of your allies. But you said biblical mandate,
The biblical
good
mandate,
intention,
good intention,
wrong action.
wrong action,
I was talking to a guy the other day. He
wrong
said,
intervention.
I was talking to a guy the other day. He said, just because you're doing good doesn't mean you're doing the right thing.
Yes.
So how would you? How would you explain that? I mean, like, it's one thing to say, okay, fine. What am I supposed to do? These people are hungry. They're starving. They're orphans. How do I help them? Okay.
But-
what do you say to somebody like that?
People need to realize that it doesn't work to fit a short-term solution in a long-term need. You can't substitute good long-term economic policies for short-term intervention. It
Or
just
vice
doesn't
versa, you
work.
mean.
Or vice versa.
I mean, you can't. I'm sorry. You're saying you can't substitute a long-term economic policy with a short-term intervention. You have to have a long-term policy.
You have to have it. And all of these people coming in and distribute 20,000 jars of peanut butter, that's a short-term solution. But the long-term situation is you have to let the market grow and leave the incentive. But the situation is, what do those people with a biblical mandate, with a resource, with good intention, what do we leave them to do? What do we leave them to do? It's like, now, we're not trying to say everything is wrong. What we're trying to do at Partners Worldwide, we says, purchase locally as much as possible.
Or invest in a company that can employ the parents.
Can employ the parents.
So, like, you create jobs.
So if you are distributing 20,000 jars of peanut butter, we say that's fine. Why don't you buy half of that in Haiti?
Could you back up a sentence to get that? I had to change the card. That's one of the big stories that we want to talk about is peanut butter.
Okay.
So if we could just start over on the peanut butter thing, maybe preface that all these organizations are saying, they come to Haiti, they say, wow, kids are malnourished. Peanut butter is high in protein.
Let's feed them,
Let's
man.
ship let's ship peanut butter. You know what I mean? If you could tell that, preface that story, and then say, hey, here's another way to think about it. What if you bought locally?
Yeah, I mean, like,
We're probably going to do this multiple times in different ways.
Oh, that's
but
fine.
It's just,
no, this is really good. No, this is helpful for us to, because as we prepare and think about, this is fantastic. I mean, because, like, I want to ask you some questions, like what Mark said, but, like, okay.
Do you have anybody that can help me write a book?
What?
She's supposed to help me do that.
I'm about to do the same thing. So you have anybody who can help me write one? We'll make a deal.
I'd like to say a couple things, but no, seriously, I have this urge to write a book. To the churches, to the international development aid.
You should. Let's talk
She's
about.
supposed to help me do that, but we haven't written one page yet.
Yeah, he's supposed to help me, and I haven't.
I know what's going on. When you start putting money behind it,
Yeah, Daniel.
I want to put 15 grand on it.
Okay, so Daniel, like, explain to me. Okay. What do you say to somebody who says, "Look, I mean that's okay." All right, so here we go. I'm going to set a scene for you. All right. So here I am. I'm an American guy. Okay. Obviously, super handsome, intelligent.
All right. Let's speak 5 languages.
Okay, no, but okay. So I say, all right, look. The problem is that we can't just give a short-term solution to a long-term problem.
Sure.
And people will say, yeah, but people are starving. I mean, look, Haiti, people are starving. You've got to do something absolutely right now. Okay, now I think we can agree that, like, in an emergency need, if somebody's starving, you got to help somebody. But, like, the problem is they'll say, if I make an argument, I'll say, well, what Haitians really need is the institutional infrastructure
Yes.
that allows them
Yes.
to create wealth and prosperity for themselves and their families and not be dependent on aid. Well, that's easy for you to say because you are, middle-class American, extremely handsome, and, witty and all these things. And so, but what about the poor people who are suffering? Okay, now, what would you say to somebody? I mean, you seem to say, kind of make that argument. What would you say to somebody? Because it's one thing for me, I mean, I was making jokes, but it's one thing for me to say, as an American, well, yeah, but what they really need is this long-term thing. And the answer is, yeah, but don't you have any compassion? I mean, they need help right now. And it seems to me that the help right now is actually hurting them in the long run.
Yes.
And maybe even hurting them in the short run.
Yes.
What would you say to explain that to somebody? That's what I'd like to hear you say.
That's one thing. Compassion doesn't justify ignorance. Compassion does not justify ignorance. I would like, as a Haitian, I'm a Haitian, grew up in this country. I never spent a year with an entire year abroad. So I'm a full product of the country that I'm proud of. What I need to tell them is, the other thing that I want to say that well, I forgot what I was saying. That compassion does not justify ignorance. Second thing is, come back to your senses. Once people get on the plane, live down here, and they get into the culture shock, they do all kinds of, I don't know what they're thinking.
Like what?
Well, they go back home and raise 20,000 jars of peanut butter they could find here.
Okay, keep going.
And
Like what
they
else?
find 20 jars of peanut butter they could find here. So what we're saying to them is, you have a biblical mandate, that's fine, great, I do too. You have a good intention, that's great, I do too. But you don't need to get the wrong actions behind it to solve the problem. What we're telling them is, it's okay to give it out for free because you're trying to meet a short-term need. That's compassion. It's okay to do that. It's your mandate. We're not going against your mandate. It's okay to do that. But the right action is to buy it here as much as possible.
Why?
Because you need to increase the level of transaction within the economy.
What does that mean?
That means that the economic growth. If you want to increase the GDP in a country, you increase the level of transactions. How many times people buy and sell in the country? If one example, if the Haitian economy grew at 3% and there was 10 million transactions in the country, everything else equal, if you need the country to grow at 6%, you need 20 million transactions. Everything being equal. This is a guaranteed growth. And if those countries, those organizations, if they buy more here, they do the right action. They distribute it to the people they consider poor. They respect their biblical mandate. And also, people who are in short-term needs find the stuff that they need. This is the right action.
Let's talk about the peanut butter thing for a second. Okay, so I was on a plane today, and I met this guy, and he said, you know, we ship peanut butter down, and he was quite, you know, enthusiastic about this thing. I mean, and these are good guys, all right? I want to make that very clear.
Sure.
But, so I said, you know, we're actually going to go down and meet some businessmen and women down there, and you know that they are actually producing peanut butter. And you remember what he said? He was like, they produce peanut butter?
Yeah, it's the best stuff on
Okay,
earth.
I mean, so like, what would you, I mean, that was his reaction. Okay, they produce peanut butter? I mean, that's what he said. What do you think?
That's a nice guy, but who should come back to his senses? It's a tropical country. They grow peanuts, and all you need is a small grinder to make peanut butter. Yes, they make it, and they should, because it's a tropical country.
So, okay, so like,
Name some of the biggest companies in Haiti are peanut butter companies.
Rebel.
Can you describe them?
Rebel is a huge company. They make peanut butter, they make coffee, locally grown, and they can get 20,000 jars of Rebel peanut butter here.
what's it called?
And
Rebel?
Rebel, R-E-B-O. And they're, you know, if they ask me 20,000 jars of peanut butter, I can get it to them.
I, for the record, only of the last 5 years, I'm a peanut butter connoisseur. No Jif, no Skippy. So if it's good peanut butter, I will do some tests.
Sure.
But anyway, okay. So tell me. But okay, because I mean, this is the kind of thing. Like, this guy's like, oh, they produce peanut butter now. I asked another guy, what are you doing? And he said, oh, we're buying rice and beans. Where? Is it produced there? I don't think so. So I mean, you know, okay. So like, okay, let's say, imagine I'm visiting some guy or talking to this guy who does peanut butter and say, look, you bring a lot of peanut butter down to Haiti, and you got the biblical mandate,
Sure.
the good
Right
intention,
intention.
and you're bringing peanut butter down. And one of the reasons, okay, this is very interesting. They said one of the reasons we're bringing peanut butter down, but this is another group, not this group. I saw a video. He said it's because, you know, they don't need blankets and ski gloves. They need something that they can
Or
use.
yoga mat.
What?
I'll take them and sell them. Yoga mat.
What?
There's an organization who is distributing yoga mats.
Oh, yoga mats. Oh, right, yoga mats. I remember I read that. So like, okay,
I'll sell them.
okay. So they said, instead of doing yoga mats, okay, I'm going to bring down something that's useful. I'm going to bring down peanut butter. But what they don't know is they don't think of this concept of like, well, maybe I'm distorting the market.
Yes.
Like, what would you say to somebody? I mean, tell me more about this. Explain this so that they can understand. So they're in their own church and we're going to do something good for Haiti. Now these guys, like, they're your friends. They're not your enemies.
Yes. Good intention. That's the good intention part. They're your friends and they're our brothers, Christian brothers. We're Christians. I'm a Christian capitalist. Wait, let me say that. Let me go backward. I am. Christian should come first. I'm a Christian. I'm a human Christian capitalist person. No capitalist. Capitalist because I believe that the
What do you
business
mean
that
by
is
capitalism?
capitalist is because not only you're a businessman, but you believe that the addition of the having so many businesses is going to create the economic prosperity.
Okay, but when you mean by capitalism is what? Not oligarchic capitalism.
No, it's just capitalism is first about small businesses. It's how Adam Smith defined it. Competition is the capitalist. The system works out this way. The well-being of individual makes the well-being of society.
Okay, so let's go to this peanut butter thing. Okay, so he says they produce peanut butter. What do you think is some of the images that people like? What are some of the images that people have of like people in the developing world, Asians, Latin America? Maybe are distorted. They're partially true. Can you? I mean, like, again, the people I'm talking about are not like. I'm skeptical of the foreign aid business. I think it's a poverty industry. I mean, I'm going to show you a video of Theodore Dalrymple talking about how foreign aid has been very good to him. He bought his first house on the profits of foreign aid. I mean, it's great. I mean, he's just so honest.
Maybe true, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that a lot of the kind of like peanut butter giving Christians, these guys want to do good.
Sure. Good intention.
They need.
Good intention.
They need. Like, do you think maybe they have this kind of like unitary vision of people in the developing world? You want to say something?
I have a thought. Just, taking a look at some of the organizations that we've been in touch with over the years, a lot of them have one face that they want to put to that choice that they make, and that's the child eating the peanut butter.
Yeah.
They don't take into consideration the parent of the child who is out of a job, who puts the child in that daycare, which is called an orphanage, just because they have no income to bring home. They don't take into consideration the suppliers of the raw materials, the local peanut farmers, Haitian peanut farmers. They don't take into consideration the local peanut butter producer. These factories that employ hundreds and hundreds of people with a stable income. It's such a popular product. They just have that one face of the child with a peanut butter sandwich or whatever it may be. And I think that's what sells in this foreign aid market. It's the face, the child in need or whatever
Like
it may
Anioka
be.
talks about the hero story. Hero.
Yeah.
Like at Acton, Anioka eating pizza is our face. She just loves pizza on tea.
Yeah.
Okay, but like Anioka
So, but
talks about.
people don't understand all of those dots all the pieces in the puzzle. It's not just the one person. It's not the recipient. It's all the other.
It's that
It's all the
declustering.
input and output. Yeah.
Like
Chain.
Yep.
Daniel, Jackie and Anioka and I were talking today, and Mark and I talked about this before. That there's all this work on clusters, right? Like you've got the clusters coming up, right? And that you like a lot of research. I mean, Marcel Escobar at Harvard, Ricardo Hausmann at Harvard, doing work on like prosperity mapping. That's fantastic, very interesting. And then this whole idea of clusters, so you have the one company coming in and then the others surrounding it, and so the economy begins to grow because you have suppliers.
Development of industries.
Right.
That's how capitalism works.
Right.
Development of industries,
I'm going to show you this thing from Marcella because it's fantastic that they're working
Okay.
at Harvard. But the thing that actually one of the things I want to kind of illustrate in this documentary, perhaps, is that is just as clusters develop, kind of like
Sure.
that foreign aid, especially, but secondarily charity, kind of comes in and it declusters.
Yes.
And this is the point I think Jackie
Yeah.
was making. What do you think about that?
This is what I was telling Jackie this, and I discussed that with Jack, and this is the essence of my book. Maybe I'll give it the title.
Let's take a look.
Get back to
Let's just take a look at Jack real quick. Hey, Jackie. All right.
Jackie and Lara. This is what I wanted to develop in my book. Maybe I'll call it "Get Back to Your Senses." Maybe I'll call it that.
That's recluster.
Recluster. Because you have countries that are designed, and this is the essence of my book, right? That I haven't written yet because I don't have anybody who can help me do it.
I know how you feel.
What Michael described is the reason why the country's poor. I read the book with Mario Dambisa, blaming the foreign aid and all. I believe that's fine. This is great, and that makes sense. But the foreign aid is just a consequence. There's reason behind it, cause and effect. The reason why foreign aid destroyed the economies, it's not because it's foreign aid. That doesn't make any sense. Foreign aid cannot destroy an economy just because it's foreign aid. That doesn't make any sense. The reason why foreign aid destroy economies are because it's incompatible systems. You put a free distribution system, good system, in a market, in a system that's designed to accommodate transactions. For instance, the Haitian system is built for transactions to happen on a buying basis, because it's a market system, and you go out in the streets, everybody's buying and selling. This is what they know to do. This is what the country knows to do. This is the essence of the Haitian country. Same as Nigeria, same as Burundi, except for Cuba, which is communist. If you do that in Cuba, that's fine. If NGOs go distribute food in Cuba, it's not going to do anything to the Cuban system because it's a system that's designed to receive it the way it is. So the reason why foreign aid destroy economies, it's because they take a free distribution system, apply it to the system that's designed to accommodate buy and sell. That's why foreign aid killed those economies, not because it's foreign aid. Foreign aid, the economies don't die because it's foreign aid.
Although foreign aid does politicize development, yes. I mean, it makes development, instead of an economic question, highly politicized. It subsidized dictators, a host of other things.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, this is another.
It creates other insidious effects besides.
Yes, yeah. It creates incentives for the wrong actions.
Let me ask you this question. One of the images people have is that the poor need to be protected from global capitalism. They need to be protected from competition.
I'll tell you this, Michael. I've traveled in the U.S. I've spoken in different churches. People are elected to businessmen. In Latin America, in Haiti, it's a matter of degree. People in Latin America might be more reluctant to businesses than people in the U.S. I'll tell you this. I have never been in the church in the U.S. even where the pastor prayed for the businessmen. Guess whose money they're spending? Guess who hires their daughters? Guess who's paid the taxes to make the roads and provide security for them? Businesses. And generally, people are just have this crazy idea that businessmen are out there to make profits and not share it with other people. They're not designed to share it. It's not a give system, it's a system with transactions, buy and sell. It's not designed to do that.
Now, some Christians would say, well, isn't that kind of crude materialism, selfish greed?
Oh man, they need to get back to their senses, because the system works in the U.S. the way it is. Because when you borrow money, you pay it. When you need a bottle of water, you go to the store and buy it. It should not be different in Haiti. There are a lot of dire needs here. They deserve attention. And Christian people with a mandate and good intentions, they can do good. They can distribute it for now, short term. In the meantime, the economy develops. But they should source that as much locally as possible. The Haitian economy in a long time, we're talking about an economy who has accused negative growth for a long time, is going to grow up by 8% just because of local purchasing. And if we have churches, good intention, with a biblical mandate, commit and engage their time and resources to increase their local purchasing, we're talking about a vibrant economy in less than 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
In less than 10 years. And wait, I'm being loud here. And we don't have to be enemies. We don't work together collaboratively, and this is why we're doing our conferences. This is where we invite the NGOs. Hey, friend, let's talk. How about we do this?
Tell me, what do you think about the NGOs in general? Let me preface this. Okay, I'm going to tell you what I think a little bit. I mean, everybody loves NGOs. I mean, they just love them. I mean, oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
To be a nonprofit, to be an NGO, is like the most altruistic, wonderful
Sure.
thing. It's the new gig. I mean,
Yeah.
it's cool to work for NGOs. I'm telling you my own bias.
Sure,
I'm
it is,
personally
it is.
skeptical of them. A lot of them are really good, but I call them, this is philosophical, this is from my philosophy days, I call them nominalist do-gooders. What I mean by that is they're just exercising compassion. Okay, but it's not rooted in reason or truth or right.
Yeah.
But there's a kind of almost like a hero of the NGO, especially in this generation. I'm a little skeptical. Am I wrong? I mean, what do you think?
It's a fabricated compassion. It's not real compassion. I mean, I don't want to be cynical, but compassion to who? Who's the hero? I don't see them making the Haitian people the hero. I mean, I don't see that. Sometimes there's a little bit of selfishness.
Is the hero thing a problem? I mean, Anyoka thinks so. Right? I mean, Anyoka thinks like the hero. I mean, right? Anyoka, what's your view on the hero?
Did you like my dad's t-shirt this morning? Oh.
What was it?
I'll explain.
Oh, I know, she told me.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's a confusion, because people are not acknowledging that their brothers and sisters in developing countries have the same dignity and capacity that they do in developed nations. And so there's this concept of the hero, in which, I mean, you are coming as the savior to like rescue these people, to grant them what they mostly need, because they are hopeless and they can't do anything by themselves. And so that is a mistake, because you're not recognizing, God in them, the capacity and the dignity that God gave them to do things, their way, to be able to get out of poverty if they only had the foundations.
Sure.
And so I think that here, that there has to be a transition so that people understand that they are not going to be the heroes in those stories, but the developing world entrepreneurs and developing world people are going to be the hero in that story, so that development does take place and things actually change.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I need to write a book. I need to do that.
Let's talk about it. I have an idea for you already.
Okay. As a Haitian, people have made Haiti a lab of experiment, of stupidities.
Hold on, stop. Say it again. People have made...
People with good intention, people with good intention, with the proper resources, with the wrong action, have made Haiti turn into a lab of experiments that have gone wrong. And the reason is because it's the same definition of Albert Einstein that I've been using over and over. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting the same stupid result. 400 has not produced one good result ever. Why do people think they will still do? It won't. Stupid. Sorry.
We have this, did we take it out of the statement of principles? It should be in the statement of principles that the developing world is not a lab for...
It's not a lab. It's real people.
It's in the statement of principles. The developing world is not a lab for experiment.
For you to become the hero after you've done stupid things, I sound cynical, but it's just upsetting. Because there's
If you're Haitian,
churches.
you wouldn't understand.
Eh? Yeah, I'm dumb like that, I guess.
Oh, you're pretty
I mean,
smart for it.
we're talking about people with the capability of doing
Oh
good.
yeah, stop. You're gonna say good things. Wait.
Okay.
Hold that awesome thought.
Keep it up there. Keep it. Hold on to it.
What do you say to somebody? Oh yeah, I'll say.
I forget because I go on and think of something else.
What do you say to somebody?
I didn't expect this tonight.
So,
I thought we were just gonna meet and
Yeah, I
talk
will.
through our
You wanna-
schedule.
I'm gonna ask you something, but
Here, I'll
look at Michael.
Okay.
Talk.
Hey, just a thought.
What do you? Yeah.
I don't know if we'll have other opportunity to interview Daniel another time, but it's getting pretty late,
Yeah.
so we'll have to head back
Oh,
soon
it's
just
almost
for
10.
safety.
Yeah.
And I was thinking we could walk through our schedule briefly and talk through tomorrow, just so we're on the same.
Should I ask you a quick follow up and then go on the schedule? Is that cool?
Yep.
And then look at Michael. So you said 4 and 8 hasn't done one single good thing. You talk about the NGOs and all this thing. What do you say? What would you say if somebody said, "Well, you're bourgeois. You wouldn't know." Right? We're sitting in this beautiful, nice restaurant.
I'll tell him
and
that.
like
I'll tell him this. There's nothing bourgeois about me. My dad was a Restovac.
Was it what?
A Restovac, a child slave. And I grew up around poverty. I was never poor because God has blessed my family. But all of my friends were poor. I grew up in a poor country, and I've been poor in my life. I've been poor in my life, and it's the same principles that are applicable to anybody. Good education, and if you're a businessman, look for the right market opportunities, the good connections, the right finance, and then so you can invest and you can thrill. So, what was the question?
Well, I was just,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
was
like-
visually, I'm looking at this beautiful restaurant here. We're talking, and we're criticizing NGOs and power, and
Yeah, but what about
and
the
I'm
poor
just saying-
support?
Or
You don't know,
we're
you're
not
poor. You
criticizing
said your father-
NGOs. I like them. I want to be friends with them because I want to use the money they have to do something better.
What's that?
To training like we're doing in Leogan, the pilot, training, loan capital, advocacy, organizing conferences, put the businesses together with the NGOs, increase the level of transactions. I want to be friends with the NGOs, the ones that are willing to collaborate, and the ones that can understand, the ones that have been back to their senses.
All right,
Awesome.
we should take Jesse's.
I don't want to sound like somebody.
Coming
Good,
to
no,
space.
it's awesome. What do you think, Jack? Jack?
Yeah.
Jack.
No, we're just
Jack. Oh my
Jack's
gosh.
in the house. What do you
I
think, Jack?
Me too. Everybody's Jack.
Jack.
I laugh because Daniel yesterday tells me that he brings up what it was the Albert Einstein quote.
Somebody refine that for me.
People keep doing. I mean, she's an American for crowd love.
Somebody refine that for me. You know what it is?
doing the same thing
Failing
over and over.
to, not doing the same thing over is stupidity. Failing to acknowledge reality is insanity.
Okay,
Because you could actually not be insane and do the same thing over and over again.
I should write that down.
But it's really failure to acknowledge reality is the sign of insanity.
Ignorance, or maybe
No, but
it's
ignorance is not
conscious or
insanity.
unconscious ignorance. You know, Michael, ignorance can lead to insanity.
Yeah.
It will definitely lead to insanity, as it makes you do things over and over and expect different results. She was telling the guy there to do something in English 3 times. Nothing happened.
Hey, I totally
All right, Jackie, steer the
Alright,
ship.
team. Okay. So on
We
our
can talk all
schedule-
night.
So what we have scheduled for tomorrow, and you can help us with this. It is a visit to Ken Michael.
Ken Michel.
Ken Michel, excuse me.
Ken Michel.
And he's the owner